So, welcome back. The number 44 of the Darkness Light Godcast, and actually a wee bit excited, probably no nerves, but a wee bit excited for this one. It's been a few weeks since I sat in this chair, and for the longest time, it's interesting still that there's 44 that I've managed to record over the last almost a year now. It must be close on for a year. And it's fascinating to know that there's 44 out there once this one goes out, and it's been interesting over the last few weeks when they I made the conscious decision to kind of step away from it a wee bit for quite a few different reasons, and I'm glad now where I'm at, that decision. Again, follow your guidance system and tune into your feelings and your emotions, and even just before I come on here, I'm thinking about, when you're right in the flow of something and it's coming through you. Every single one that I've done so far has been easy in terms of the material and how the material came through, and my desire, to take it to the world and help as many people as we can with this work. And then, when it kind of dries up, and then it becomes like the last time it felt like a real effort when I was even thinking about doing it. So at that point, with everything that I know in terms of how this goes together, it doesn't work. So at that point, you need to stop. Otherwise, it just becomes a waste of time for everybody. This information, this inspiration that comes through, there's never any real. It never feels like work, never feels like effort. To allow it to come through. And a couple of quotes I was thinking about first one was for Abraham. Esther Hicks talks about if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, and that's very much the case with this. If you're in it and you're flying and it's flowing through you and it's easy and it's a hell yes, then just go and do it and let it come through. You get yourself out the road and then just go and do it. The same is true if it's not a hell yes, then it is a hell no. So if there's any kind of chinks in the armour, or you're a wee bit out of alignment, or you're not quite feeling it, then it becomes challenging and difficult. At that point, it's it's a no go, and that's with everything. It's not just with us; it's with everything. Everything that I do, I try to keep it like that. You try to stay in your flow and try to stay in spirit, and stay in that place that Abraham would call alignment, and I would call alignment. To allow it to come through you, then it becomes easy. Otherwise, it doesn't work with this kind of work, So, and the second quote was one. It was Jim Rohn. Fascinatingly enough, a long time ago, he used to talk about John F. Kennedy's dad, Joe Kennedy, and he used to say that if it's not necessary to speak, it's necessary not to speak. And it's kind of like that as well with this. I never ever feel like I need to get out, and I'm never pushing this. In terms of, certainly not for any gain for myself. It's really just to try and help people, and that's where the words and whether it's the posts or the poems or the stuff that's coming through, that there's always the words are always there. I never need to really go and look for them, especially recently, where they seem to be appearing at odd times of the day, and it's been if you need to go and kind of dig them up and try and make something happen, that isn't going to work. And the best posts and the ones I get the most responses from and the ones that feel the best to me, they're always the ones that I wake up with. They're always the ones that I'm sitting in meditation and they just appear. And the words are always they just seem to flow through me. So when that doesn't happen and that stops, then again, it's necessary not to speak. Which is where it's been the last few weeks. It's been necessary. It's been a time of quiet for me. It's been a time for going inside and getting quiet, and a lot of reflecting and a lot of tending to myself. Being selfish and really getting onto the programme. All the stuff that I teach and all the stuff that I share. It was long overdue for me, and I have been talking about it. But there's obviously levels to that as well. And it's been great for me to really get on one programme and be like just super selfish in so many different ways, and obviously still do what he's done with the rest of the other stuff. But in terms of the stuff that's important, tending to myself, getting into alignment, the meditations, the really caring for myself, that's been at a level recently that I've never been before, which I'm absolutely loving. So this one is called I Have a Dream. Which came on the back of, there's been quite a few, first of all it feeds into the dream of the mission. That's really what it's talking about. John McFadyen mentioned a few weeks back about unpacking, how it looks and what it looks like going forward, and what the final destination is with this mission that we're all on. What is the dream? What is the Vortex mission? What are we doing? What's the plan? Where does it end up? It's very much still in an evolving and growing phase and stage, which is hugely challenging in so many different ways. I can't tell you. It's so frustrating in so many ways at different stages when you're going through it. It's very difficult, and at the same time, it's most of the time it feels just easy and the exact same as I opened up. It's flowing through, and the next part just seems to keep unveiling itself when I'm able to get myself out the road and get into the work and really get into that flow state. Then it just seems to appear whatever's next. And I have a dream is literal, because this morning, this kind of podcast came about this morning back at 2. After being in bed, after a long day yesterday and being in bed, for probably back at 10 last night, and waking up just after 2, I was yanked out of bed. And the dream that I had is on the back of, that's probably 3 or 4 dreams that I've had recently over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And for years and years, you've heard about, and I've heard about, people talking about getting guidance and inspiration during the night and waking up with ideas. That's certainly been the case for me with loads of different areas of this work. Almost every single thing that I've done in fact, everything I've done has either came through meditation, or you kind of wake up with it, whether the unconscious mind is basically working in the background, and you wake up and you're inspired to go and get up and get into it, and whether it's a new programme or a new workshop or a name or a heading for something I'm going to do, or even a poem. I wake up with entire poems sometimes. It's always been that way, and certainly I'm sitting in meditation and they definitely come through. But the last kind of 3 or 4 weeks, the dreams that I've had, there's at least 3 or 4 of them. It feels something very, very different from what I've ever experienced before. And obviously there's really, there's different types of dreams, when you come back, and I've never really been a big dreamer. I really haven't. I've been a dreamer in life, but I've never really been a dreamer in terms of, when I get into my actual dreams itself. I'm not. I don't look too much into dreams. I'm not a big fan of dreams. I hate listening to other people's dreams when they tell you all the stuff that doesn't make sense, and you're trying to make sense. It's just I've never been into it for whatever reason. But the ones that I've been having feel like not just dreams, but they feel like some sort of whether it's a download or whether it's an upgrade, or it's some sort of divine information coming through in different ways. That's coming through at exactly the right time, specific to what I'm needing in my life just now. It's really interesting. I've had 2 or 3 where my mum's been involved, which has been incredible. The first one that I really had, I was in the dream, and it was so real that I felt as if I was with my mum again. Which is the first time I'd really felt that since she passed in 2020. And obviously you're sitting in meditation, I can feel her, and she's in spirit, and I'm sitting in spirit in meditation, and I can feel where she is, and all that. I've spoken about this on here before, all that great stuff that comes through with the connections and the bond being eternal. But there was something about being in this altered state, of this dream state, where I actually got to spend some time with her. And that's happened 2 or 3 times. The last one that happened was probably last week sometime, and it was fascinating. It was basically seeing her life from her perspective, and we're going through all our old pictures and all our old photographs and kind of trinkets she'd collected, and she was basically expressing her life and also the love that she has for me specifically, and it's my dream. So there was nobody else in it. It was just me and her, sitting connected in this way, and the healing. They came back for that in terms of the connection and the love and the feelings of her being there was just incredible. I feel actually quite emotional just now talking about it. It was wonderful. It was just great to see her again and be with her, and it was something just towards the end of the dream when you realise it's her dream, and it's like fuck, it's like, oh no, you can, because I was really in it, I was living it, I was in that space, and it felt so real. That's the thing. These kind of these altered states, is it lucid? I know there's different types of dreaming. I'm not quite honest, I don't look into it much as I mentioned, but this really felt like I was in it, and I was in it for a reason, and I was getting some sort of help or intervention, whether it's from her or whether it's from whoever, the angels, the archangels, the ascended masters, God, herself, himself, whatever it was, the field was trying to help and give me a wee bit of a leg up and a bit of support. It was incredible. That's been great. I'm obviously really enjoying that. It's unfortunate you can't make it happen. It's like the experience of enlightenment. You can't make it happen. You can't sit and go, right, I'm going to, for the next 3 years, I'm just going to sit and be enlightened. It doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, you would never see me. It kind of happens to you. And the way those 2 or 3 dreams happened, the experiences that came through them, I can't even really remember them, if I'm honest with you. And I probably should have wrote them down at the time, but I don't really record stuff like that. I believe they come in as gifts and you get what you need at the time and then you move on. I'm not too nostalgic with that kind of stuff. But last night, again, I had an absolute belter. And kind of very, very different. And it was very much a case of, I think it was reminding me last night, that dream, that whole specific scenario that played out, it was a real reminder to me in terms of what it is that I do and what I'm all about, and it reminded me of my dreams and my mission, which is something that's been lacking a wee bit recently, I'll be honest. It's been a really challenging time in so many ways, the stuff that I'm dealing with on a personal level at the minute, still healing my body, still learning how that's going together, which is fascinating, a blessing in so many different ways. I can't tell you, what's basically how it's unfolded over the last wee bit, and the expansion that's taken place within me to learn what I need to learn. So that, again, it's so I feel that I can pass it on. Everything that I've came across, everything that I've basically been through and transcended, and the stuff that I've been able to pass on to people, it all comes from me being the kind of guinea pig. It all comes from me going through it first, and then me speaking from experience. And this ease that's in my body just now is no different. I'm having to learn ways to navigate it and make peace with it, and see the good in it, and see the expansion that's taken place for me, which is undoubted, the amount of massive expansion that's taken place because of it, and the timing of it. And I think there's definitely there's a transition. I'm talking a lot just now about transitioning. There's a massive shift obviously in the world just now, but there's a real transition in myself just now. The age I'm at, 53 now, and you're still a young man, but you're making your way towards the last few chapters of your life. Excuse me, spitting on the mic. But you kind of, by the time you get to 50, 60, so you're starting to get there. And not that I've ever spent any time thinking about not being here or dying, but obviously it's going to happen to everybody, and it's something I'm actually looking forward to because I kind of feel I know what's next because of the spiritual experiences I've had. But at the same time, from the ego low level, the third dimension, gymness, then obviously there's physical change within the body. The chemistry's changing, the hormones are changing within the body. You're getting older, and the person that you were over the different. Jung used to talk about the different archetypes, from being the athlete and the warrior, and you get through all these different stages up till I think he's got 3 or 4 of them, and until you become. Wayne Dyer was the first person to talk about the transition, of the archetypes of your life. And I'm certainly moving towards the kind of the final stages of it. I've always been the athlete and the warrior. That was long gone for me. When I come back from Ibiza, that they two were done. And the next parts, I can't remember what the third one is, but the kind of elder statesman, I think, is the final one, which to me is about you've got what you're going to get for yourself, and then it's time to pass it on, and it's time to help people, it's time to pay it forward, which has really been a bit for me for a long time. But there's levels to that, and there's ways to do that, and the bit that I'm at just now is coming from the spiritual perspective. That's what this is all about for me. It's fascinating how my work has evolved, even over the last, since 2016 when the Vortex opened, I became public. Fascinating to really think that I never even did I was never online, had no Facebook profile or nothing, not Instagram, didn't even know how to work it. And then the Vortex opened, the desire to basically help the world and help people that were seeking. That's why I came online, because before that, social media was for me was people taking pictures of where they were for something to eat, and just fucking nonsense. And I had no interest in it. But try to see the good in it and use it as a tool for good, and really, just by documenting what I was doing and how it was helping people and how it helped myself and tell my story a wee bit. That's why I get on about it. So it's very, very interesting, to see the transition of where I was and what I was talking about then, and I actually saw the other day that Facebook's going to be losing all the videos, all your videos that you did. And I think back to the first video I ever did, which is 2017. I think I was walking up and down the side of the river. It's a great story actually. I couldn't do it. I really didn't have the bottle to do it. I was so nervous. I could talk for days in front of people. That was easy, but like to actually have a camera and think it was going to be recorded and people were going to see it and that was going to be documented. And I remember the first time I ever done, the first video I ever did on Facebook, it was basically selling the benefits of cold exposure and breathwork. I was going into the river I decided I was going into the river every single day. This was before Wim Hof method was a thing. I was probably just finished my training, so that'd be 2017. I became an instructor. Maybe even before, around about that, and I was into the river every single day. Did it for about 18 months into the river, and I'm walking up and down the riverside ready to make this recording, 5:30, 6 in the morning probably. But I think it was winter time. It's probably the start of winter or whenever. It was bloody freezing anyway, and I spent that much time walking up and down the side of the river that by the time I actually hit the live button and I went live, I get about a minute and a half into the video, I think. I can't remember how long it was, but basically the video cuts out, and that video is still up, so basically I remember a couple of people messaged me saying, like, the fact you never took it down, because I was like then standing, I'd never charged my phone, this live video that went live to internet, I'm halfway through it and it dies on me, after spending an hour like eating my battery, going up and down trying to work up the courage today. It was just interesting, and I thought, well, if that's as bad as it's going to be, people are going to see me at my worst, then just leave it up there. That was it, was done and dusted. And then over the course of the next probably year and a half, I was doing it almost every single day, and interesting, Facebook's going to do away with all of that, and that whole journey, it's a wee bit embarrassing, I think, for me looking back on it, in terms of probably how forceful I was, especially with the Wim Hof method and all the benefits. Again, where I was at the time, it's all I knew, and I didn't know any other way of doing it, and it was basically changing my life, the benefits to switching off my nervous system and the power of the breath. It was very raw and unfiltered many times, and it was helping a lot of people. This is pre-COVID, so you could basically lie people down and blow their brains out with 40 minutes of breathing, nothing happened. Now that's another way I would do it, because of the virus and all that kind of stuff. Negative effects on the heart and all that kind of thing. And what I now know about breathing, I definitely wouldn't do that ever, unless it was somebody who was really, very strong and fit and healthy, and also the ability to recover either side, But at the time, it was really kind of my ignorance, I suppose, and what I'd been taught. And nothing ever went wrong, it was always with the intention to help people. But to look back on that journey, of where I was with the videos and the posts, and I remember the first time like talking about spirituality and God, and like, all right, okay, and that's like, right, fuck it, man, this is where I'm at, this is what I do, this is what this is all about. This isn't it, I'm not a life coach, I'm not some sort of fucking therapist that's going to sit and listen to your problems for the next 10 years every week and take 50 quid off you. That isn't what this is. This is about self-reliance and reconnection back to yourself, and it's always been like that. It's always been the desire to empower people, to experience enlightenment, that direct experience of the divinity that's inside everybody. That's what this work has always been. It's never changed. But the evolution of that and how I released that to the public made my dad looking at me as if like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you all about? I came from building sites, and like we were working class. It's like to talk like that, the way that I started talking, and then you add in the poems as well. It was an interesting time, and it was interesting seeing people run about it, and their relationship with me, and like, I suppose their judgment of what they thought I was, and even still to this day, I saw a guy I used to go to school with yesterday, and you can just feel it, you can feel like, because they look on and they see the God stuff, I can imagine, and there's obviously a lot of judgment goes with that, and rightly so. It's the ignorance is bliss, I suppose, for them. They don't know what I'm doing, and it's never bothered me. It really hasn't. The desire to help other people, I got beyond that very, very quickly. And when I think now as to the way that it's evolved and the way that I've evolved in terms of how I'm sharing it with people and how I'm teaching my work, which is the programme, that's what I call it, this body of work that I call the programme. Everything's leading towards the spiritual practices, and I think at the right time, and I've always felt like there's going to be a time where it was probably going to be needed. And in the world just now, the state of the world and the mess that it's in, the circus and the zoo and the jungle that it is just now, and the literal chaos that's going on in the world just now, it's a time where I do believe that unless you've got an internal practice, like a spiritual practice, like getting quiet, the ability to switch off your head, the ability to get out your mind, the ability to stop thinking, to go inside. And it's always interesting to think that people don't know how to do that. That fascinates me. We had one of there's loads of different stuff going on in here just now, even though there's not a lot of public stuff, but within the programme there's loads of different kind of different ways to get on about it and different expansion that's taking place. And one of the things that we've been doing is healing with intention, so energy work. And I was blessed a couple of weeks ago with John and Mark that came up, and I was the subject of, I was needing a wee bit of love, I was needing a wee bit of some healing into me, and just the level that they are operating at in terms of energy work practitioners in a really short period of time. I had an energy session, probably lasted about an hour and a half, probably 2 Mondays ago. And we're sitting at the end of it, and we're sitting in meditation, just blissed out. And the inability to even think, never mind speak. Words, there's no need for it. You're in this sacred space. This is a sacred space, this building. But the combined intention of the three of us in a literal vortex of just goodness, in the field of the divine, you're talking about tapping into consciousness, you're talking about tapping into the field of, that creates worlds, as Abraham would say. Absolutely the ascended masters and angels and archangels, and that's just three men, no rainbows, no unicorns. We're not cutting about with white feathers and, incense and kumbaya. There's none of that stuff. This is real unconditional love. And what I received during that session and what we received, because we understand how this is different from angelic Reiki. But angelic Reiki, when I get into that, it was basically the energy comes through you from the archangels that you're attuned to. So it's not you that's doing it, so then you become a channel or a bridge, and you just hold the space simply by intention. And you receive the benefits, so whoever's administrating or allowing it to come through them receives the benefits as well. Whereas a Shui Reiki was always like the symbols, and it was very ego kind of based. It always felt, without any disrespect to anybody, but it's like an entry level, where it's just I never got the experience from that. And I had some experiences, but not when I came across angelic Reiki. It just blew my lights out, because I knew that it was coming from a different place other than the human being that was basically trying to do these different symbols over the top. It's very, very different. It's so much more powerful. Maybe because of my awareness and where I was at the time and the ability to tune into it, and then my own experiences with the training changed all of that. But long story short, by the end of the session, we're sitting in bliss, the three of us, and there's a feeling when you get into that space. There's a feeling when you're sitting in that, eyes open, eyes closed, you're drifting in and out of it. You can tune into it in a moment. It's simply by intention. And we're sitting at the end of it, and that question that John asked me a few weeks back, what is the plan, what's the mission, what do you want to do with this, let's unpack it. And what I said to him at the end was, it's like that feeling that we are sitting in just now, that kind of sea of inspiration, that sitting in spirit, in that flow of the divine, at that place where nothing can ever go wrong, sitting in the field of consciousness, that energy that literally creates worlds. When you have the awareness and you can be in it, and the feelings that you're kind of in this world but not of it. You're still a human being, but you feel it way more than that, because you're taking on the power of the field. That's the whole point of meditation, is to tap into the divine so you can take on the power of it. That's what inspiration is, to be in spirit. You're taking on the power of the field. And that feeling of being in that space, and I said to John at the time, it's like, this is my wish for everybody. That's my dream. My dream is for everybody to experience this. I am that, the old Moses, I am that I am. Be still and know that I am God. I am is the name of God. To be still enough and to have the awareness and the sensory acuity and the training and go through the stepping stones to reach a place where you actually experience that. That's my desire for the world. Why? Because it fixes every single thing that it touches. It makes better everything, because you tap in and you reconnect back to the real power that you came through, that you came from, and that you carry inside of you. And the dream for me is to start to live for that place, so we can get the world back on its feet, back to the way that it's meant to be. So everything's going that way just now. The dreams that are coming through, the evolution of me, the things that I'm learning about myself, the different practices that I'm bringing into my life has been fantastic. I was, again, talking to Mark yesterday about where I'm at. And it kind of feels like over the last while I've just simply ran out of gas. I've run out of fuel. The last 20 years for me, I've been knocking lumps out. One of the challenges that I faced from an acupuncture perspective is, excess kidney energy. That's the drive, that constant drive. And if you look back at my life, whether it was vaccine damage, I was probably like this before it naturally. You come in with a certain amount of it's certainly Eastern medicine and philosophy believes you can have a certain amount of like life force or ki or chi energy within you, and once it's done, it's done. And right back to I was tiny. I can remember just having this life force in me that drove me, to be devotional to whatever I was doing, whether it was football or I've never, certainly no school, but whatever I was up to, I always had this real passion for it, which has really been my whole life, and it's interesting how it went from the sporting arena, the only thing I was ever any good at, which I excelled at was playing football and scoring goals and being that guy, and then how the vaccine damage basically took that away from me, which may have been divine planning. I don't know. It might have been. I think, and I see some of these football players now that are thicker than a whale omelette and just have nothing going on upstairs, except they can talk about football. But in terms of how much they've evolved as human beings, and certainly the spiritual side, and the stuff that to me is really important, there's no evolution there. There's nothing there. It's basically all surface level, mind, intellect. Success. Having the stuff, having the things. Your man Beckham would be the prime example of that. There's not a lot going on with just about any of them, I don't think. So to think, where the path that I was put onto, whether I chose it or signed up for it before I came, I don't know. But the path I ended up on, let's put it that way, and then the evolution of that. And who I became, as a result of that journey, and as a result of, that constant work and the evolution. My desire is to pass that on, is to share and speak from my experience, so that people can get around about it, and absolutely, learn, so that it should be commonplace for everyone. It should be normal practice. Meditation should be something that everybody understands what it is. There should be something that everybody gets. I've not been having a go the last few days, but I've been kind of. Maybe I have been, with the whole Easter Sunday and the whole, what that is. Excuse me a wee second. The Good Friday, and this is where I need to be clear about my understanding of Jesus. I grew up a good Catholic, in the Catholic Church, and was an altar boy and absolutely loved the whole thing when I was really young. With a fantastic priest, I've spoken about one here before, Father Gallagher, who was an amazing man, a real holy man, a man of God, who my brother married his niece, my brother's first wife, and I got to know her with a spiritual relationship. I met her a few years ago, and she was talking a lot about him, her uncle, who was a priest, and how he was really a man of God, and how the good that he did. And I was just a wee guy when he left the parish. He would get sent to another parish to deal with some stuff I heard through her and the Catholic Church. He was sent in to kind of mop up some things that had happened. I think Blantyre he went to at the time. And it was just very, very interesting, how my relationship and my belief system about the church and God and Catholics, and then how that changed really early on in my life, up until the stage where at teenage years it was like, this is just a load of shite. And then when I really started to understand about religion and then spirituality through Wayne Dyer and my whole belief system, I started to understand and make sense of stuff. And the Jesus Christ and the whole story that they tell you. The challenge I've got with all the religions is well, especially like my religion that I grew up in, there's so much of it hidden. There's so much of the information was held back. There's loads of different kind of books and Bibles that were hidden and withheld from us. There's also, there's the point that, and I'm like this with everything, unless I see it with my own eyes, I don't believe it. It's like, let me see it first. So when you start to understand, even the damage that the Catholic Church has done worldwide. You think of many people have died in the name of God. The amount of countries that they've taken over, the problems and just, to think that that's a force for good, to think any of it's a force for good, and then to think how they take, Jesus Christ, and then they tell this story, which may be true, but it doesn't feel like it to me, and the thing with, Good Friday and then Easter Sunday, which this is Tuesday, so the few posts that I put up talking about, Jesus, and for me, the energy of Christ, that's something when you're going about energy work, the people start to talk about the Christ energy, Christ consciousness, and the system that I am very interested in, the Sarge Marx Indian system, The second Master of the System, Babaji, talks about how Jesus was basically taken to India. So the years that he disappeared, Jesus was taken to the secret schools in Egypt, and I believe he was showing all the cool stuff that we don't get to see. So the ancient information and the real kind of probably the instruction manuals as to how the fabric of life and the stuff that's been there forever that we can't get to see, that's basically hidden from the common man. Jesus, they believe, and I certainly feel it, that he was basically taken and educated, in all these different, secret schools, and anybody, when you know about it, you listen to like say Graham Hancock, or they talk about how the ancient, how the scholars, all the great mathematicians, the people have really changed the world. They all went through a similar education. They went to Egypt and they spent time in the temples and the different, whether it was the monks or the priests or the evolved beings were basically like they were given. Then they come back and they went away and changed the world. A lot of them, Pythagoras, a lot of the mathematicians, all the kind of the real greats. Hancock talks about it a lot in great detail. Fascinating stuff. But Jesus, to me, it's like what they did with him, how they killed him, and and I'm smiling just now because. And the thing of like Jesus being the only Son of God, that I've got huge challenges with that, and to think, like who he was and what he did and how he lived his life. And the quote that I use all the time was that I heard it probably a couple of years ago, and it's like he and his disciples were followers of the way, and the way is the way that I talk about all the time. So that's in alignment with the divine. That's something that he, he didn't have a religion. He wasn't basically standing there as a Catholic or a Christian, it's interesting that Jesus wasn't a Christian. I think that's pretty funny. Was he a Jew? I mean, he was obviously it was where he was, in terms of, they talk a lot about how the language that he spoke in, and so there was obviously certain influences of religion at that time. But how then things like the Catholic Church took that, and then how they've used that, to. There's nothing worse. Dr. Hawkins talks about how like a spiritualized ego, and the danger. It's one of the most like dangerous things on the planet. And then what you can go and do with that, by basically using the fear of God, and also the promise of God as well, is a big thing that they do. They promise you something that I don't believe they can deliver. Whether any religions like that, I don't know. I'm not well versed enough, but certainly my own experience of the Western religions, in terms of come to us. And we'll give you the experience of God and the promise of heaven and the afterlife. That's to me is just rainbows and unicorns. That's something that I don't believe in. So the post that I did on Easter Sunday was talking about how I believe that Jesus has risen. The whole thing about rising from the dead. I don't believe in that. I believe the spirit continues on. Based on my own experience, my mum, and when she passed, and the relationship that I have with her and had with her, and before, during and after, sitting in meditation, and people being in this building and seeing her, standing beside me, all that kind of stuff. Again, from direct experience, I can then say this is my belief system. And it's interesting to watch, people that have been basically taught and given a belief system, and how they'll stand beside it and they'll fight for it, and they've no direct experience themselves. So the spiritual way that we're doing it, that I'm doing it, that I'm basically trying to share and teach people, it's that you don't need anybody to go. Don't need to go to any church. Don't need to go to any kind of evolved being. I believe that you can have direct experience of it yourself. That's what I've always felt with this. I remember the first day, used to take my kids to church when I was young, because it was the right thing to do. It was like kind of Catholic family and young kids, and take them to church and get them into the system. But I remember driving back, and at the time I was really on an up kind of curve of like experiences with spirituality, meditation, and I remember thinking like, being a wee boy and getting some of those really profound experiences with Father Gallagher, and like being in tears sometimes, like some of those Latin masses and benediction, the kind of, and it's done by design, the words and the music and the geometry of these churches and chapels that are done by design, is to basically create some sort of sacred vibration. There's certainly sacred geometry. You're ever in the great chapels and the great churches, you can see the sacred geometry, and you see how they're designed. It's done by intention. But the experiences that I was getting, I'd never had them since I was a wee guy, but the experiences I was getting in meditation almost daily at that point when my kids were born, going back 23, My boy's 23 now. So going back 23 years, 20 years, it was really, really profound. And the realisation that, I didn't need to go, it's Jesus, I'm pretty sure, said, you don't need to go to any church to get it. You can basically sit, and experience that which he said. I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. As above, so below, the kingdom of God is within you. All of that stuff, that's the things that at the time I was, very interested in terms of, without having to go to it, because I knew I couldn't get it in the church. I knew I couldn't get it. I used to really not enjoy church. You couldn't get it over with quick enough. My mum, God rest her, she would make you go, and it was just it was like an act to, it was like when you need to do something, you're forced into it, and it's not your free will. And at the same time, you're getting nothing from it, and it's just really appearance money. You're just going to show up. And she used to ask us to bring back the missalette so to prove you'd been. Oh man, and that happened to I was probably my 15 or 16. My dad was like, right, we're not doing this anymore. We used to go into the wee pub, the station inn, and play pool and pretend we went to Lanark Mass. We could look on a Sunday night just to get it over with. So to then have the spiritual experiences. And when Dad was talking about the difference of religion and spirituality, and all the stuff that the yogis have known for 5,000 years, and these evolved saints and evolved masters and ascended beings, and the yogis, and how far back does that go? Certainly, way beyond kind of Christianity or the modern religions. But again, it's all about the direct experience of the divinity that's inside everybody. And that's the bit that's really exciting to me. That's what the mission is for me, is to realise you don't need anybody or anything. You certainly don't need to go and sit in some sort of building and basically give your time. You can if you want, if that's where you're at. I respect everybody's, where they're at with it, their belief system, what they get for it. A lot of the older generation, that's certainly where they're at. A lot of the younger generation, for me, is frankly terrifying, that they have not, absolutely zero, even the idea of religion or God or spirituality, how it's just not a thing because our parents haven't basically taken them. I think the good thing that we had growing up is because even though it was, I believe, very, very limited, you were still taking every week, and there was goodness in it. There was a really good message in it. There was a lot of good stuff, a lot of good people round about it, and that's absolutely lacking. It has been over how many years now? The last, 10, 20 years. It's been something that it's not a priority anymore, and it's something that absolutely could do with coming back. Who was I remember listening to? He was talking about how religion is like a great, it's like a kindergarten. It's like play school. Vivekananda, the great Indian saint, said that it's great to be born into organised religion, but it's terrible to die in it. I love that. So it's a great kind of starting place. It's a great kind of grounds for your education in terms of the concept of God and the ABCs, learning the alphabet. And then once you start to evolve up through it and we reach an adult age and stage, and you're maybe seeking a wee bit more. And again, religion might be there enough for everybody. That's each to their own. But I really don't feel that you can get, certainly what I see and what I feel in my spiritual practice, and certainly what I'm seeing just now with the people around about the vortex, the people I've been basically sharing the way that I've been doing it over the last, nearly 18 months now. The evolution of that and what they're getting from it in terms of their direct experiences of the field and consciousness and divinity, I don't think you can get that in religion. I really don't, and it's that whole be still and know the power that's within you, be still and know that I am God, that's inside of me. I might not be the full thing, but I absolutely carry it inside of me, so that's really exciting. And that's where all this is going just now. That's where the transition that's coming through within the world, the transition that I'm going through myself personally, I believe I'm having to go through the adversity I'm going through, so that I can then learn how to teach the things that I'm meant to be sharing and passing on, without going through this hardship that I've been going through recently myself. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing the stuff that I'm doing. The new stuff that's come into my life, the new practices that have came into my life, the different way of doing things, the different stage I'm at in my life just now. There's no rush, there's no force, there's no real effort anymore. It's really just every single morning, as I started at 2 o'clock this morning, sitting in meditation, handing it over to God, reconnecting to the divine, and allowing it to come through you, and really just being a vehicle or a soldier of God. I love that. Yoel Romero, anybody that knows UFC, one of my favourite UFC martial artists, used to talk about being a soldier of God, and that's what this feels like just now. You know, there's a real kind of, the fight is on, darkness or light, the world is in the bones it's are. So many people are like spiritually bankrupt, or emotionally bankrupt, or broken in so many different ways. The world is bankrupt. When you talk about ethics and, you know, doing the right thing, and, you know, and it's just all that's missing just now, you know. So at the same time, there are so many soldiers of God. There are so many people that are in the light with answers and solutions, looking to get it back to the way that it's meant to be, you know. And there's this real kind of spiritual battle going on. I've felt that for so many years now. The last 10, 12, I've always known there's a real. That's why my first book is going to be called Darkness to Light. That's my story, you know. And when you're in the darkness and the ego and, you know, the desire to like serve yourself and get it for yourself and you know, beat people and, you know, win, and that's such a lower level, short-sighted way of being in this world, you know. So at the same time, just now there's an uprising of light coming through. There are so many experiences and stories just within our group of the ones that are in the kind of inner circle, the ones that are devotional, I would say, the ones that are up every single morning and sitting in meditation. There's so much evidence of this new information and inspiration coming through just now, that is going to be the tools that we require to get the world back onto its feet and back to the way that it's meant to be, you know. So it's a massive time of transition and evolution in progress. And the work that's basically needing to be done is just wonderful. It really is. It's fantastic. This going inside process, this reconnecting, you know, getting out of your head and reconnecting back into yourself, back into your heart, back into your soul, back into the field, you know, back into the divine mind, the divine matrix, consciousness. Doesn't matter what you call it, but there's something about that unless you've experienced it, and for those that have never experienced it, it's available to everybody. You know, anybody can get it, you know, it's so simple when you understand the steps. That's one of the biggest things I've really learned, I think, over this last year and a bit. As frustrating as it's been in points, you know, when I now look back to it, but I'm like, oh my goodness, look, there's so many people now, I think, to the very first time they walk through the doors with their own belief systems and like full of stress and like fully ego and, you know, just their own ideas and their own challenges and their life experience in terms of what they've been through and the traumas and the hardships and all the damage that's been done to so many people, you know. And then the evolution of how they get to where they're at just now, all the different kind of, you know, the steps and the downloads, I'll let them talk about, you know, the significant points where, you know, they had a real, those big penny drop moments where everything changes, you know, and you really get to like evolve. You get a massive shift in consciousness, like a quantum shift in consciousness, and you evolve and you see through stuff and you start to see things in a different way. And the healing journey that comes through that, and then once you start to get the other side of that, and then you make peace with all the stuff, every single bit, it doesn't matter what it's been, that you've been through, all the stuff you've had to go through to get to this point, and then seeing a lot of those people now, you know, sitting in meditation every single morning, this field, this vortex that we have created, that the entire community has created, and the ones that are really like run about it and devotional to it, what's being created just now is something I've never felt before, really, isn't it? It's very, very powerful, and it's really exciting, and it's just, we're absolutely blessed, we really are, and there's a way to do it, there's a stepping stone way to do it that anybody can do. And that's the best bit, you know. It's really exciting for me just now, you know, because it's all good. You know, so a lot of learning going on, a lot of healing going on. The refueling process for me, which I am loving. I have brought in some soft arts, some gentle arts into my practices. You know, so for me, obviously meditation's always been there every single day. I've never missed a day since 1997, 1998 when it started. The breath work and breathing with intention. Doing a lot of even functional breathing, which I haven't done for a long time, just giving my body the gifts of generating nitric oxide and, you know, like basically like getting my body back into balance and de-escalate my nervous system and really like taking away all the stress, and then bringing in a couple of kind of gentle practices, the gentle arts. Qigong has been there for the last few years, on and off probably 10 years. I've done a lot of stuff because of my martial arts training. The karate that I trained in, traditional karate, it wasn't about fighting. It was more about the if you know about the karate, the other side of it, which is the kata they call it. You know, so it's the preset routines that all like basically different stances, different positions, whether it's punches or kicks or movements. A lot of it's done with breath work. A lot of it's done on your own. So that kind of gentle but really kind of strong practice, that's how my karate training over like probably 10, 12 years, that's what it was all about. The man who taught me, that's what he was all about. It wasn't really about the fighting. I was never interested in the fighting, you know, so how all that martial arts training moves in towards these kind of, because Tai Chi is one of the things that I've been doing, again, that's been there for a long time, but I've really kind of started, the timing's right for me, as a tool for healing, you know, and Qigong's the same. It's even with Sasha within the programme, my sister, God bless her, the work that she's been doing and her passion for Qigong over the last few years, and really been on about that and been really privileged to experience the work at a different level because of her. Because I've never really had the desire to go and learn it for myself or even teach it, but I've done a lot of it naturally because of my martial arts training. So now Tai Chi and Qigong is a tool for healing. You know, the way that you're breathing, the way you're moving, and the benefits just to get the Qi moving within your body, you know, and the benefits that that's having already that I can feel in a really short period of time. It's just never been the time before, and I've got a reason for doing it. I've got a really strong reason, a big why for doing it in terms of healing myself. And, you know, as I'm getting older, I'm really grateful just now. I've got a lot of really incredible teachers that I've been meeting. A lot of them up at the golf. I've been playing a lot of golf this year, a lot of practicing, and I've been meeting quite a few elderly gentlemen who are just wonderful, almost every single one of them. But when you get to know them, they start to tell you about where they're at, you know, depending on what age they're at, you know, you start to, they express their physical ailments and their symptoms and the challenges they're facing. I'm right at the start of that when my body starts taking going the right direction, you know. So I've got one eye on them, and I'm like, oh my God, they're only 70 or 75 and the stuff that they're going through, and I'm watching my dad as well, who's 81, and Jill's dad's 88, and it's just seeing different people at different stages, and I am taking full responsibility from now to move and breathe and allow that Qi to flow through me into my tissues and my tendons and my joints and my blood and, you know, my different systems of the body. I want to become healthy, not on the outside, but on the inside. Certainly, I do want it on the outside, obviously, but more importantly on the inside, the internal organs, the stuff that you can't see. And that's where these, you know, ancient practices that are, again, 5,000 years old, some of them, the ancient ways, is to basically, you know, and I'm applying them in my life consistently every single day now, and the benefits to that. Yoga's never been for me, although I've done yogic moves, like, again, probably the last 20 years. You know, I used to go to a yoga class once a week, way back in the day. Never had the desire to teach it. Love yoga, union with God, that's what it means, the union, yoke. So I consider myself a yogi because I understand how to reconnect with the divine, and then I'll move from that space. But there's something different about Qigong and Tai Chi. Maybe because of, you know, my, whatever it is, I've always felt a real kind of strong connection with, you know, the Far East as opposed to the Indian the kind of systems. That's where karate was really, absolutely loved it, and still do, you know, still practice in a kind of soft, gentle way, the techniques. And when I'm doing that with breath work as well, you can feel the healing that takes place, you can feel the stress leaving your body. We need to move. Very important to move, and it depends how you move. I have no desire to go out and do what I used to do. I used to train 30 hours a week, just about 25, 30 hours a week with Ironman stuff, even with karate. You know, I'd do it in 3 bikes, 3 runs, 3 swims, killing myself every time I trained. That's using up the life force. That's using up that kidney energy to the point where, as my acupuncturist, my doctor said to me 2 months ago, stop. This is it, man. You need to stop. It's time to you've got choices to make, which was really hard to take, you know. And then the realisation I was going to a different stage in my life, and now just blessed to be in that stage. I'm really enjoying getting older. I am loving at this, but I'm probably spiritually, I'm the happiest and most balanced that I've been in probably 15 years. I can't wait to get up every single morning and sit in those meditations. There's a live meditation every single morning, just now, sometimes twice a day. The space that we have created within the vortex, and the evolution of that's been amazing. That's been something that, again, when you allow it to unfold and you don't force the issue, and you don't try to make it happen, when you hand it over to the divine and you just watch it coming through, it's amazing what happens. So for the last year, anybody that's watched this in any detail, every morning I was doing lives over at that. There's a desk behind the camera, which is a recording studio, and I would basically sit on the screen with the camera, with the music, and then come in here at 4:30, 4:45, set it up. Every morning, set my alarm, 7 days a week it was. I would really have maybe 1 day off, and then somebody else would host it, one of the team would host it. But I remember about 4 or 5 months in, and I'm sitting, and it was like the radiation off the screen, and it was like it had dried up for me. I was working every single day, you know, and I was really putting my life, heart and soul into this every single day. the benefits that came for that and what people got for that was incredible. Even getting out of their bed every single morning, because for me I've always done that. So it was like having people to play with, and at the time I didn't really need my own like spiritual practice. That was the time when the program was just launched and we're getting it out there, and it was really a case of just being inspired and like let's get this to people, and and some mornings would be 30 people sitting at 5:30 every single morning, between 10, 12, 18, 30 people sitting in meditation every morning. We managed to record them. We recorded them all, so they're on the program as a bank that people can tune into. But I remember that when it just started to dry up, and I was at the point of burnout. This is last October, November time. I was starting to fray, and Brian Mackibong just was like, you're just a bit burnt out here. And I was no well. I wasn't feeling good, and I wasn't enjoying it. So again, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. I had to stop, and I'm sitting in meditation, and the radiation coming off the screen, and the Wi-Fi I could feel, and I'm thinking, like, what has this got to do with my program? This is killing me. This is making me no well. And it wasn't like that all the way through it, but towards the end, it absolutely was. So I had to really have a good look at myself and like, okay, so this needs to stop. And I decided to stop there and then. And that was last November time. And a lot of the programme members didn't like it because they were being guided every morning, and it was fantastic, some of the stuff that was coming through. But if it doesn't work for me, then again, you can't do it. It's not going to work. It's so detrimental in so many different ways. So between then and now, when I basically backed away from it, and there's still been lives almost every single week. If I'm away or there's something on at the weekends, the Sunday service is live every Sunday night. That was right through the winter time, and then just over the last week, well, they've kind of, because of different things and probably the evolution of it, there's been a couple that we've missed. And I do catch up during the week. So there was a live last probably Wednesday night. There was a catch up for the Sunday that I missed because the golf was on, the Masters was on, and I was basically watching that. And then the holiday weekend, again, I'll do another one this week. There's another one on tomorrow night to catch up for the Sunday night we missed there. But over the last wee bit, I've had a real calling, and really at the time, because I wasn't getting my own spiritual practice, that's why I had to back away and start to put some time with myself. I gave everything away and there was nothing left. I was like bankrupt. I was absolutely like drained, and I'm thinking like, how everybody else is like getting this, but I'm basically killing myself, giving myself, and that doesn't work. That's not what this is about. So when I stopped it and moved away from it, I always knew there would be a time where I came back to it, but the way that it was going to happen and the way it was going to unfold, I didn't know. And it was really just over the last probably week or so where I started to get glimpses of what that would look like. And then probably like 4 or 5 days ago, it came through sitting in meditation. I don't need to come downstairs and turn on the recording studio. I don't need to get up at 4:30 in the morning. There's people sitting in, there's a live space, it's called the Sacred Space Meditation, which is basically a Zoom meeting room that people go in, and I've been using it. Thank God for the people that kept it going when I stopped. John Maguire, Marnie, Myra, Mark Burns was using it, Lynn I think was using it as well. There's people that were going to sit in that space just to be, because we created like a vortex. It really became like a place you could go, a place of like coherence, a real field of like goodness and positive intention. And then I was tuning in myself, so I would get up and do my own meditation and sit in silence, just like tune into the group and sit in the group. And people can listen to the recordings, they can listen to music, they can sit in silence depending on, and everybody's going in at different stages. And then very quickly I realised it's like we've got a live meditation every single day. Just because I wasn't hosting it live didn't matter. It was absolutely brilliant, and that realisation was awesome. The fact we can actually say, again, there's live meditations, there's a sacred space, 24/7. You see people tuning in at 7 o'clock at night, you see them like 3 o'clock in the morning, and all day you'll see, because I get notifications on the emails of when people are tuning in, so fantastic. And I'm sitting, I'm going, right, so, and it just came through. It's just amazing how I couldn't see it up to this point, but the laptop that I use, I can basically tune in. There's no microphone, there's a mic on the actual laptop, but I can basically mute it, go into the sacred space, and then play the music of a meditation I would listen to, and really kind of hold the space by my intention, and allow other people to be in that space with their intentions. And then we basically, so we're meeting every single morning, and I can't tell you, it's been the last 3 or 4 mornings, and I can't tell you, 2 o'clock this morning I was yanked out of bed with that dream, and then I couldn't wait to get downstairs and get into the space. And I get in, and there was probably just after 3 was when I tuned in, and there was already somebody sitting in there waiting, doing their meditation. And then what I now do is I go in with their agreements, so that I'm not affecting them negatively, or complete respect for that, obviously. But I would go in and play the music and like host the space and hold the space. And then by 4:30, 5 o'clock, there's 6 people sitting in meditation, everybody listening to the same music. And again, like up regulation, the downloads that are coming through, the inspiration that's coming through, the connections that we're making with each other at a heart and a soul level. I mean, these people, and this is something that, you know, when you spend time together, as we have been over the last year. The Sunday Satsang's a big one, but the things that are on at the Vortex just now, the Sunday Satsang was probably the biggest thing. That came on the back of the Power and Boys Club. What was happening, boys that were coming every Monday night and going through this work every Monday night. The evolution of that over the course of the year was incredible. And what we were creating in the meditation was very different from the rest of the group. So the intention was to basically offer something to the group. And Sunday Satsang is now every month. And Satsang it's an Indian term. And what it means, when you look it up, it means the company of truth. You know, so there's something about sitting together, you know, in real time, in a real dimensional space. When you're in the field and you're sitting in the middle, we're on our different homes obviously every morning, but you can tap into each other. It feels like you're sitting beside each other. There's something different about when you're actually in the same space with each other. And this is the next one's going to be this Sunday. I think this is the fourth one we're going to do, maybe the third or fourth. And there's something like so powerful and so different about everybody sitting together now, because they've got a year and a half's training. Some of them have been practicing before this, but over the last year and a half, they've really they've been dialed in, and there's been a lot of shortcuts, which is what this is all about. This is about creating shortcuts. This works so that anybody can get it very quickly. And now when you sit with people that know what they're doing and are quite comfortable sitting in silence and they're quite comfortable in their heart and they know how to switch off their mind, we go through breath work. I take them through breath work. We get into some like deep relaxation, and it's straight into meditation. And when you can feel what's happening within the room, I've never felt like it. I really haven't. The power that's within it, and the power within the group, and the combined power. That great quote from Abraham, that one person in alignment is more powerful than millions who are not. I've always said, like, what happens when there's more than one of us? What happens when there's more than one person in alignment? I was in alignment, but it was just me. And then when you see now, there's 8 people, I think, coming. There was 20 the first week, the first time we had it. And there's 8 people coming on Sunday. Now, the numbers don't matter. If you get 2 or 3, that's enough. You can basically create a vortex. The last Sunday Satsang, talk about being in the company of truth. At the end of it, there was probably 4 or 5 of us had the exact same experience. It felt like you were sitting in some sort of like a divine matrix, a literal vortex, where the whole room was basically in this field of just goodness and love and light. And that sounds mental, I know, but that's what's happening. And this isn't just me that's saying this. This is like people who, when you hear them talk, there's no airs or graces. This is people that grew up the exact same as me, west of Scotland. There's no fucking about. There's no white feathers. There's no kumbaya. There's none of that stuff. This is real direct experiences. You know, and the massive shift in consciousness that's taken place as a group as well as individually, and the healing that's coming through, the amount of tears the last time. I looked up at one point and I think everybody in the room was crying, myself included, and it wasn't tears of sadness. It was like tears of joy and tears of inspiration and tears of relief and tears of, you know, divine like intervention and inspiration. That's what it felt like, just being in this field that was uplifting every single cell in your body. That's where healing takes place. The healing that I see just now comes for the love of God. It doesn't come for medicine or some fucking doctor, or there's none of that. It's not even coming for diet or coming for acupuncture. It's the direct experience of the energy of the divine. That's what heals everything that it touches. That's what Joe Dispenza does. I've known that forever. Before I even knew who Joe Dispenza was, that's how healing takes place. That's how I got all my healing at the beginning. It was the enlightened experience and the reconnection back to the field, becoming the field of God, becoming the field of the divine matrix. That's where healing takes place. You know, so we're creating that now by intention, and there's a way to learn it, which is really exciting, and it's feeding into like so many different things within the vortex now. We've now got Boys Club, we've now got Girls Club, which I absolutely loved. Girls Club and me, so with the women, God bless the woman, man, and it's so important to have this time we're in just now where anything goes and like fucking boys or girl. No, it isn't. That's not the way that it is. There's male and there's female. That's how God, whatever you believe God to be, that's how it was designed. The yin and the yang, the black and the white, the positive and the negative. There's the male and the female, and that's just fucking it, no matter what your belief system is. You know, so and I love working with the feminine energy. I love working with females. I love the pureness and the goodness and the light that's in them. I know that's not in the guys, but it's very different with females, and they've got a real, and this work seems to attract the majority of females. And and again, it's that ability to care for something outside yourself. Most guys in the Western world, it's all about them, the ego, the lower self, just me, fucking me. And where does that end up? Where does that lead to? Like Donald Trump, that's where that is. The leaders of the world, who's got the most power, who's got the fucking, it's like that's where that fighting and that male energy leads to a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. But the divine feminine, the nurturing mother nature, the balance, the ability to see it from other people's perspectives. The fact that they have children, and allow that process to take place and go through what they go through, and then the role they sign up for the rest of their days. There's something about the feminine energy which is just so powerful. And the world would be a much better place if it was the power was handed over to the feminine. Like, I'm not talking about poor women, these like guys in dresses and suits that say they're women. I'm not talking about them, these women politicians. No them, but real like feminine, that loving feminine energy, that ability to care and see things from everybody's perspective so that everybody wins. So Girls Club came off the back of Boys Club. We'd spoke about it for long enough. I was hoping that maybe my wife was going to step in and take it, and that didn't happen. And then I thought, you know what? It's like I'll host it, and then they have time in the sauna and do their own thing. I take them through the breathing, we meditate together, and then they get their own time. They go and talk about other women, talk about in the sauna, and then catch up with each other, which has been wonderful. And then off the back of that, we now have the club as well. So we've got Boys Club, Girls Club, and the club, which is the accumulation of Boys Club and Girls Club. The first one is on this Friday, which is going to be great. That's again, it's getting together, and anybody that's in the programme, just now, there's not a lot of stuff that I'm doing that's outside the programme. I'm tending to myself as a priority, and then I'm basically really putting all my time into the community, and any spare energy that I've got and the inspiration that's coming through is going into the programme and the programme members. Why? Because of where they're at, because of the investment they're making in themselves every single day. When you see people every day as we do now, and I can see if they're serious about it or not, this isn't a place to come and go through like it was a couple of years ago, just go through a wee ice bath and get your picture for Facebook and then fuck off and going, that isn't what this is anymore. It's evolved beyond that. This is for people that are serious about this really intense, spiritual work, but the desire to help, the desire to get the world back on its feet, the desire to basically, be part of this community that we're putting together so we can fix this place. It's not just about coming and learning to breathe anymore and switching off your stress and then disappearing and we never see you again. I don't have the time for that anymore, I really don't. And I am still doing the kind of coaching and still helping people. Absolutely, I love that. It's an absolute passion. But the bigger picture in terms of, the ability that we have as a group, as a community, when everybody's on the same page and moving in the same direction, it's evolved, it's at a different place now, and I'm so grateful for the ones that run about it, the ones that are showing up every single day, the ones that are expanding with me and watching them expand and being, the observer and having the absolutely blessed position to help them, not to give it to them, but to help them find their way in their own healings and their own journeys and become who they're here to become. So many of them are being sent. I know that, I can feel it, because I really feel at this level, you need a mission, you need something, you need a desire to go, and there's something greater than just you. When you get beyond the ego and you get satisfied with all the things of this world, at that point, once you get it for yourself, then you need to go and, I believe, take it to the world and help the world. And there's so many people on about this that have got that feeling, that knowing that they've always had something like a greater calling for their own life experience. And it's very difficult to find something like that in the world. When you do go to a charity or you get run about something and everything that comes with that, good luck with that, so this what we've got going just now in the community that's going just now is something that is really exciting, because we're basically rising together in the intention to then get it for ourselves and then take it to the world and help as many people as we can. That's really exciting, and there's something that's going to be, that's came through again. There's something just outstanding that I've not released it yet to anybody. There's 2 people know about it, but I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to release it to the programme members tomorrow night. And it's something that we as a group can get on about. It's something that we, as a collective of pure intention and the desire to help the world and bring back some light and bring back the way that it's meant to be, with the power of the divine and the grace and the goodness of how it's meant to be, like how the way that God set it up, the way that Mother Nature's meant to be. This world's broken, it's bankrupt and it's broken and it needs fixed. So we're the ones that are going to have to do it, and there's so many light workers just now, there's so much, God bless the internet, there's so much awareness and information, and there's so much inspiration out there, and answers and solutions. So at that point, we the people need to do it, and that's something that they, the owners, are not going to like, so it's going to be challenging times ahead, but as a collective, as a group, the power of the collective. And that Victor Hugo quote, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. That's something that, I've felt that for a long time, and there's always going to be a time for this work. And it feels like it's just about here. The world is screaming out for something, and there's not a lot out there. And this way of living, this way of being, this way of like going through your life, in that flow state and being happy, and not all the time, but the ability to see it for what it is, and then still like dust yourself down and go again, and serve a greater purpose in yourself, and serve the greatest good, and serve the divine ways and how it's meant to be. That's something that's really exciting. So only good stuff just now. Everything that's going on within the programme, within myself, I'm excited. I'm feeling great. I really am spiritually. Physically, I'm still not there, but that doesn't even matter at the minute. I'm not getting caught up in anything. The programme within the Vortex that's been stalled for the last couple of months, and I'm at the point where I don't even. It doesn't matter. It really is. It'll come at the right time. There's people working on the background and doing their best to get it out there. But it's divine timing. This stuff. That's where I'm at with this. I'm just allowing it to unfold. I'm showing up every single day, several times a day, a lot of the time, in terms of going inside and getting quiet and tapping into the field and tending to myself and getting inspired and just being. Just like the power of intention, just being in it and just allowing it to happen for you, as opposed to like trying to make it happen. That doesn't work. It's not work for me. It's too hard. It's nearly killed me, so I need to find a different way of doing it. And when you're ready and you've got the right intentions, which I absolutely know that we have, the desire to help people, and there's no self-gain in it. Everybody needs to win, absolutely, but what I don't need nothing. When I sit in that meditation, there's nothing you can give me in this world, and there's many people like that now. That they don't desire, they don't need for anything. There's maybe a wee bit of frustration in terms of still being like the circus and the zoo and going between two worlds. I still have that, but the knowing that everyone's going to be okay, and the only thing you need to do is to get on this path, into this way of living, and to be in spirit and to be like inspirational for yourself, to look after yourself, to sit in that field of love, that thing that like God is love, sitting and feel the feelings of love, and then bring that to the world and be more loving and be more caring and just do your best every single day. That's how we fix it, So really exciting times. There's a lot of good stuff going on just now, and I do have a dream. I really do. And that dream last night reminded me of what I've learned. I say often I'm the custodian of this vortex. It's came through me because of the life experiences that I've had, and I feel that I'm the custodian of it. I'm basically the team captain, but now the amount of people run about this, and the desire from them that I feel, even though a lot of them don't know it yet, but the desire to come together, and the real need to get into the communities and to help and make it available. Not to jump in and like fix people, like fuck that doesn't work, but to give people, those who are seeking the opportunity, to do it a different way. Some of the stories I hear when I talk to people about the medications they're on and the doctors and the experts, and the question is always the same: how's it going? I mean, you look at the world and you tap in, you go, right, let's say, so how is it actually going for you? How is it playing out? And if it isn't working and it isn't like the way that you thought it was going to be, then perhaps this is a different way of doing it. Perhaps this might be the way that it's meant to be. That's certainly what it feels like for me. The natural path, getting back into balance, getting back into coherence, like getting happy, getting joyful, sleeping properly, switching off your nervous system, giving your body the environment to heal and to be present. And you can't do that if you're under stress all the time. Even things like the diet's so important, but even the wee things that, to me, like black tea didn't matter before. Now I don't even drink. I've stopped caffeine completely. It's herbal teas I'm on all the time. So that there's different levels to that, and really like give my body as much of the opportunity that I can to provide the environment so I can allow myself to get back into coherence and back into balance. And the more I'm doing that, I mean, the payoff that I'm getting in terms of the spiritual juice that's coming through, the spiritual experiences that are coming through, there's no price to pay. It's all good. It's really grateful. I am really grateful, and I feel really blessed just now to be where I'm at. It's taken a lot of work to get here, but then when you get it through this, it's no work. It's just what you do. It's just like who you are and what you are, and with this mission and what we're on. It doesn't matter how we're going to get there or the reasons as to how it's going to play out. It's what's the why? Why are you doing it? What's the fuel for the fire? And that's the bit that's driving me just now. The why is everything, and the why is to basically, the divine that's coming through, the light that's coming through, is to offer that to as many people as are ready to get on about it, and show a different way of doing it. So there you go, number 44, I Have a Dream. Inwards and upwards as one. Thanks for listening, thanks for tuning in. God bless you and yours. Take it easy, peace out. I'll see you all hopefully very soon, and bye for now.